want to thank the great people of Iowa. Thank you. We love you all. What a turnout, what a crowd.
Trump won big in the first vote of the 2024 election cycle. CBS News projects Trump won the Iowa caucuses with 51% of the vote. Ron DeSantis came in second with just 21% of the vote, narrowly beating Nikki Haley, who came in at 19%. Despite trailing Trump by a whopping 30 points, both candidates saw last night's outcome as a success.
I can safely say tonight, Iowa made this Republican primary a two-person race.
I can tell you, because of your support, in spite of all of that they threw at us, everyone against us, we've got our ticket punched out of Iowa.
Meanwhile, businessman Vivek Ramaswamy and former Arkansas Governor Asa Hutchinson both announced they would be ending their campaigns following the Iowa caucuses. Vivek Ramaswamy says he will now back former President Donald Trump after falling short in the Hawkeye state. And Asa Hutchinson has not said who he will be endorsing, but stood by everything he said during his campaign. Joining us now from Des Moines, Iowa, is CBS News political director Fin Gómez. Fin, glad to see that you have survived the cold and the caucuses. There's a long road ahead. So talk to us about how Trump was able to be so successful despite spending such little time, far less time than the other two candidates in Iowa.
Yeah, Lilia, that's a great point, because typically in Iowa caucus goers want to see their candidates. They want to see them. They want to go to town halls. They want to greet them. But you're right. You know, this year, comparably, he spent less time here than the others. Why did he still win, and why did he still win with such an emphatic way, in such an emphatic way? And that is because they already know who he was. They already, his brand, he needed no introduction to these Iowa caucus goers. He, of course, is the former president of the United States. He was the former Republican standard bearer, and I think that because of those reasons, he did, very, very well and strongly here last night. It's part of what they did from the last time they were here when it was an open caucus. It was in 2016. They learned lessons when they were challenged by Ted Cruz, and while they were leading going into the caucuses that year, they lost because they didn't have the ground game. They didn't have that operation throughout the state that they now have. So speaking to sources within the Trump campaign, they point to those two reasons as major reasons why he won last night, and so emphatically.
Now, I mean, as I just said, Vivek Ramaswamy, Asa Hutchinson, both are dropping out of the race. Of course, with Hutchinson getting such few votes, something like 0.2%, I can't imagine that makes a huge impact. But with Ramaswamy, I mean, do them dropping out, does that make any difference for the rest of the candidates who remain on the race?
I'm going to go ahead and skip over Asa Hutchinson. He's a very nice man, but you're right, 0.2%. That really doesn't have much of an effect, right, on the status of the race. But right before he dropped out, right before Ramaswamy dropped out last night, there was Chris Christie, the former New Jersey governor, who was polling about 10 to 12 percentage points in New Hampshire. Now, a lot of folks that I have spoken to, including former Christie staffers and Haley staffers, believe that support will only go one way, and that's going to go to Nikki Haley. And if you recall, Lilia, Haley, in that CNN poll that came out just a few days ago, was just within striking distance of Donald Trump, about 7 points away. Now, Vivek Ramaswamy, in his rhetoric and his platform, he was very similar to Donald Trump, right, to the point that he called them and wished them luck last night before he dropped out of the race. Now, that support, he was getting not a ton of support in the Granite State, Lilia, but that support will, it would be hard to imagine if that goes anywhere else but to Donald Trump. However, as you know, every percentage point counts, and so we're just a week away until the next big contest in this 2024 nominating calendar.
And a very different place voter-wise. So, Fin, thank you so much. Talk to you soon.
Yes.
Now we're going to go to CBS News Executive Director of Elections and Surveys, Anthony Salvanto, who had a very busy day yesterday, but is joining us here in Studio 57. Anthony, what did we learn from Trump's massive win? Let's face it, 51% is huge.
Yeah, it is. If a picture is worth 1,000 words, there's at least two here, right? Big win. Look, all the counties, all that are in red here are ones that Trump won. And it's the difference, too, between, if I'll point to places in cities, right? I can go and place city after city where he was ahead. And then I'll back up to the map and just say, look, these rural areas as well. So a really widespread win there for him. A couple of things. One is that we learned he's got that committed voter base. It's been in polling, but then we saw this, and we saw this early on. We saw it in the entrance polls. We saw it from the counties as they started to report. Every place, it was just all Trump. So he did get his people out. And look, it's the most committed, most conservative part of the Republican base that turns out for this. But nonetheless, they were with him.
And he said that his supporters would walk on glass and vote for him despite the snow. Talk to me about, the turnout. Did it affect any of the other two candidates? Is that something that we know? Well,
turnout was lower than we had gone in expecting. Yeah. But on the other hand, it was really cold, right? Yeah. So that made it a little bit lower, I think. What I'm going to do here is compare Ron DeSantis and Nikki Haley on this map. So I switched it over, and the teal is DeSantis, and the yellow is Nikki Haley. And what you see here is a pattern, which is Nikki Haley a little bit better around those cities that I mentioned.
Though not Des Moines.
Though not exactly in Des Moines, yes. But by and large, as a pattern, that's one of the things we look at the data desk, right? Let's see a pattern. And then DeSantis, again, pattern, not perfectly consistent, but winning across rural areas here. And what I think that tells you as you go forward is that Nikki Haley going into New Hampshire is going to try to pull more independents, more suburban, maybe relatively moderate Republicans. And Ron DeSantis has often been overlapping in consideration with Donald Trump. Right. So his pattern tracks a little more with that, and that's a little bit what you learn from that. Very different electorate in New Hampshire, right, but nonetheless, a little bit of an indicator there that things go forward.
Yeah, fascinating. Well, we have lots more to talk about in the coming weeks. Thank you so much, Anthony.
Thank you.
Good to see you.